Okay, everyone. As you can see, we're quite we're not a really well-resourced organisation like the CCG. We're sort of we're kind of we're amateurs, but we are very committed to stopping the closure of our 2 hospitals and the halving of our healthcare. And the privatisation. And what this event is basically about is to inform. Basically, Lucy's going to give a presentation which explains the history of privatisation and how it got there and where we are now. Now, it's really up to people to join the dots up locally to see how it fits in nationally, and that's what I'm just trying to do. With this, I'm going to wrap through as fast as I can. So basically, general impression is, the first headline was 2 hospitals set to close to make way. But the reality is, only an in-principle decision at the moment for a new hospital. So what I hear everywhere is, oh, it's a done deal, there's nothing we can do. But actually, legally it isn't. Because we've had confirmation from the horse's mouth that basically the decision has yet to be made, and there's a few stages further on that they have to go through. The last one is what they call a final design, and then they will presumably, although we're not sure, reveal how many beds there are and exactly where the hospital is going to be, and then they will go through the stage of approving, we presume, unless we manage to stop them, the actual closure of the hospitals. So anyway, so basically I'm just trying to say we're not quite at that stage yet. So we're at the 11th hour, but it's not too late. So the fight is still on. If you go to the next slide. Okay, that's confirmation from them in questions we asked there. So we can confirm no decision to close the 2 hospitals has been made, even though it looks very clearly like there has been that decision made. Officially, it hasn't been. So, so basically, oh, we're on to the next one already. So here, the first we heard about this was 18 months before the actual decision was, the announcement was made 2 years ago. Was when this article appeared in Forrester, which was is basically about land lobbying. So these people on the Northern Quarter site say, put the new hospital here, and all the readers were like, what new hospital? What are they talking about? A week later, Lydney pitched in to say, and hospital feud divides Forrester Dean. Now it seems that's exactly what they've been trying to do, is pit the different towns against each other. So it's been quite a nasty process, really, if you've been engaged in this, because it has been really about parochialism and putting one town against each other. And unfortunately, the 3 town councils have all played ball with this. This is Lydney, Colford and Cinderford, by all taking part in this ridiculous competition for, which location it's going to be. And the main criteria, if you actually look, is it's an area of economic regeneration, which they keep trying to say Cinderford is. And it just seems a lot of it's more about land and development than real health needs of the community. I mean, these people, both lots come forward, they didn't say we want adequate health care for the forest, they said put it on our favoured bit of land. So, anyway, next slide. Okay, so we had to do quite a lot of digging to find out how they reached the stage where everyone was singing from the same hymn sheet, all the politicians were singing from the same hymn sheet, and we discovered they'd formed this thing called a Forrester Dean Locality Reference Group, and they'd invite representatives from all these different organisations. Now, I don't want to disparage any of these organisations generally, because obviously Forest Voluntary Action Forum does a lot of good work, the hospice does a lot of good work, etc., etc. But the reality is that all these people were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. So they were basically in the know about this for years before anyone else was, and we don't know what's gone on in the meetings because we've been refused the information and the freedom of information. So it's hard to know how that they were persuaded exactly into it. Now I was just wondering, have we got anyone here from Health Watch Gloucestershire? No, there's no surprise there. I mean, this organisation is based in Wedgley. It's a statutory organisation. It's supposed to be a watchdog, and it's supposed to evaluate our health needs. Now, I've got no knowledge of them ever leaving Wedgley, but so.
I think it's a skeleton staff now, though. I think there's hardly anyone working there.
Okay, but they surely have a statutory obligation to make sure this is happening properly, and this consultation, etc., and the whole process. Sorry.
Health Watch is part of the privatisation. It's basically an agency which is supposed to make us think everything's fine so that we don't do anything about it.
Yeah. That's what I suspected. I mean, the problem is, you see, is that you have these organisations in themselves, like Forest Voluntary Action Forum, they do loads of good things, but they are being funded by the different authorities in association with the Clinical Commissioning Group, the NHS, to basically promote this idea that the community can look after each other's needs and reduce the need for hospital stays. And that is the actual objective. And they're getting paid to do this contractual work. That's just one example. Great Oaks Hospice, there's a lot of hints in the consultation that they will be responsible for end-of-life care. Now, this is a charity rather than public sector, NHS. There's already, across the county, there's this issue of interim beds. I don't know if anyone knows anything about that, but that's when they say, someone needs 28 days for convalescence and then they can go home, so we'll put them in a different setting. Now, what tends to happen is they become institutionalised in that setting, which is, i.e., Great Oaks Hospice care home, and that's where they end up being a resident of the care homes. So that's a kind of backdoor privatisation. It seems to me that's what's going on there. Anyway, so you get the picture there. So even though they might be the sort of the most worthwhile organisations, unfortunately they're all compromised because they've sort of been in the room. They haven't been allowed to talk about it, so no one can be critical of it within these organisations, which is obviously the local authorities, all the care organisations, etc. People have been, there's a kind of gagging process, or with everyone sort of seemingly having consensus. And if you look at the criteria now, I'm not sure if you can read it, actually, I can't read it at the moment, but it's basically saying that their jobs are to amplify and to spread the word to the community and connect to the community. Now, if they were told to keep it secret, obviously they couldn't do that, and now it's public. They can't say anything negative either, or they can't criticise it anyway. Okay, is the next slide, please. So this is the only piece of information we managed to get that was shown to these people. Now, there's no mention there was a series of 3 consultations, less than 100 people in the forest took part in each one, before this, and it was nudging them towards trying to say, yes, we need less beds, we can manage with less beds, and etc., etc. We need to cut costs and this, that, and the other. So basically, and they keep using this phrase, joined up services. Now, it's the opposite of joined up, it's disintegrated services, as we see when we go on. So, support people in communities to stay healthy, to look after each other. See, that's what favors the work that they're doing. So there's nothing in these 3 consultations or in these presentations that says that the 2 hospitals would close and a new one would be built. Only very vague hints. So there's no way the public could ascertain this, before. Anyway, next slide. Sorry, Les, I'm not the best speaker. Anyway, this man here, you should Google him. He's the sort of the thief in chief, if you like. He's now in charge of the County's Mental Health Services Trust, which is Together Trust, and also Gloucestershire Care Services Trust, who run all the hospitals besides Gloucester and Cheltenham. And he told me at an event that no one was listening to him. That's the reason why there's a problem in the NHS. Now, he'll keep pushing over and over again that it's so old-fashioned to think of hospital beds. That basically people can get the best care possible at home. Obviously, if anyone knows anything about the state of home care at the moment and what's available and what isn't, it's kind of frightening in a way that the idea that we could just lose half our beds.
It's very rigid.
Yeah, the problem is the system isn't in place. To actually, replace it. It's all at the mercy of market forces. So this guy, he's obviously been brought in because he's a good storm rider. He can ride any storm. And the storm he rode in Swansea was that there was loads of cases of death, neglect causing death in his hospital. So people were calling for his head. Instead, he got 100 and whatever it is payout, 100,000 payout, and he was allowed to carry on his merry way. And now he's in charge here. Yeah, this is the man in charge. Okay, so I don't know if anyone else wishes that Richard Branson would get himself a one-way ticket and
off with his head.
So basically, the state of play we have at the moment in Cinderford, there's a new health centre being built. It's actually being built by Assura PLC, which is the property arm of Virgin Care. Now, I made a slight mistake on here, which Lucy pointed out. Basically, what might happen down the road, and this is the process, is that they transfer accountability of these premises to Virgin Care. They set up an urgent care centre using the GPs, etc., or possibly in the hospital. And in Croydon, Virgin Care set up one of these, and they used unqualified receptionists as triage doctors, not nurses. So they were actually, a triage doctor would make the decision instead of being an unqualified receptionist. And there was one death from sepsis, I think, wasn't there? That wasn't diagnosed in time. So, it was diagnosed wrongly, and that person was sent away. So we've been told in Mitcheldean and Drybrook, there's talk of, I know they're talking about a merger, so the Drybrook is joining Mitcheldean practice. But there is also talk of a new super surgery, they always call them super surgeries, being built somewhere at Mitcheldean or Drybrook by Virgin Care or Assura PLC as well. And Lydney and Colford have all got these health centres in the running as well. So this seems to be, it's a path that we might be on. Regarding our doctor surgeries. Okay, so this is so basically these hospitals here, they all cost the same amount as what they say this one will, 11 million. That one just there, at Dursley, the Vale, it now only has 6 beds for general use. The other 14 are for stroke rehabilitation. So they only have 6 beds in current use. They've gone from 20 to 6. The old hospital, Berkeley Hospital, the community thought they were in with a chance of taking it over after it was closed down, but they were defeated by the higher bidder, which was a housing developer. And that's just to sort of point out that people are talking here, like some of the politicians, we can still keep the Dilke for community use. I don't think it's very likely. They've already said in their meetings they will go for best value, which means the highest bidder. So I don't think the community will get a look in there. Now I'll just ring that. Sorry, didn't ring that for. Oh yeah. That was just to show that's a 24-bed hospital as well. Tewkesbury is also 24 beds. So that is how many beds we're looking at. No matter, even though they keep telling us they can't confirm, it's 47 beds that we have currently down to 24. You know, within that sort of price frame.
48.
You have the next one. Sorry?
There's no one at 48. That's what he's saying, this is the example.
It's gone from 48 to 24 in Tewkesbury. Right, so...
Sorry, right, I misheard that.
Right. So basically, I'll just talk about the consultation thing quick. Now, as many of us probably know, the initial consultation in which they just said, do you agree with us or not? They didn't say, do you want to keep your two hospitals? Now, the majority, 58% basically did not support them, so 12% said they didn't know, 46% said no to it. So it was a minority that said they supported it, and yet they've obviously gone through and said it wasn't a referendum, we only wanted to hear your views, basically. Now, Gloucestershire County Council here, the scrutiny, so-called Health and Scrutiny Board, I went to a long-term meeting and I was quite shocked that the Forest of Dean representative didn't even show up to this meeting, an empty chair for her, and he was up to a Stroud District Councillor to push our case basically, or just the general case and about the uncertainty about the general worries which are outlined there. So at least that's on the record somewhere. Although I believe that since then the same committee has undone its work and basically said, no, we're not. You know, that's not going to be the case now. You know, we agree with everything you've done. So, and at that meeting, it was quite worrying because it was stacked with sort of these councillors from the Cotswolds, and one of them said, well, "What are we even talking about? What do we have to pass here?" You know. So he obviously hadn't read it, and yet they apparently the people are supposed to scrutinise our healthcare for the county, and then he was laughing at the fact, he was guffawing at the fact that they pitted each town against each other. You know, he thought it was hilarious that the peasants will be fighting amongst themselves for crumbs off the table. So basically, yeah, what I'm just trying to say very quickly. So this is a very complex issue, and they make it as complex as possible. There are 2 consultations underway at the moment, even though they only talk about one of them. And one of them is about the new hospital, obviously the mooted new hospital here. The other is a less publicised county-wide consultation, where they're proposing to do away with all minor injuries units across the county, and also downgrade Cheltenham A&E, and that's got all the publicity, that one aspect of it, and instead turn them into urgent care hubs or urgent care centres. Now, they can't even tell us what's going to be in them, although from indications elsewhere in the country, obviously they're entities run by things like Virgin Care and private firms. So the idea is you only have one A&E in the whole county, which is Gloucester, and that will be reserved only for life-threatening emergencies. So unless you're going to die that day, you have to go to either bother your GP or a pharmacist, or most likely just go on a touch screen and get diagnosed that way. Now I've been told, talk to the CCG, that the new hospital will have some sort of diagnostic facility, but they can't tell us what it will be like. And currently, obviously, we have 2 minor injuries units, and they're also in place, so they have the staff in place. If someone did have a heart attack or stroke, they could actually help treat it there. They do have the sort of facilities there, even though it's not designated as an A&E. Obviously, the concern is they do away with any kind of emergency facilities and staff, and you know, there you go. So next slide, please. So I know it's a bit pathetic, but the only thing I can think of doing right now, apart from organising and you know, having a big revolution, is basically is just to have your say anyway. Even if even if you know they're not going to listen to you, it goes on a record, and it means we can go back on it at a later date, and you never know, we might even be able to use it in a legal appeal.